anything else about your time on the F-86 in Europe you can think of?
No, I don't think so. Except it was just, to me, a young fellow. I left high school to join the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was over on the squadron, I got to the squadron when I was still 19.
Oh wow!
So I was 19 through 21, say.
Flying Sabres.
Flying Sabres.
Wow.
Felt really great. I had one particularly sad occasion because the course mate, a South African, David Smith, had come over to join the RCAF from South Africa with a friend, a couple of friends, and we graduated together. We were the two off our graduating class that were given Sabre training, and we got there in October of 58, and in April of 59, he was on a low-level mission, NATO exercise, low-level sweep, and he had a tailplane failure on the airplane at about, I don't know, whether 500 feet, 1,000 feet above the ground, and the airplane just folded up and went into the ground. So that hurt. That hurt very, very badly. And I guess what it told me was it's not a game.
No, definitely not. The Sabre did have an ejection seat, right?
Yes.
But it probably wasn't very good, I'm going to guess. It was an early ejection seat.
No, it was a gun. Rather than a rocket.
Okay.
Martin Baker hadn't got the rocket thing going for the Sabre. I'm maybe being a little off the wall here, but I don't think that there was anybody bailed out of the Sabre that didn't hurt his back.
Oh. Did you know anyone who bailed out?
Yes. As a matter of fact, that's a story.
There we go. Okay, we like stories.
We were up in a section of 4. I was the element lead, and my section leader, after a battle, mock battle, said, "I've got a problem here. I can't move my controls." He was flying pretty much straight and level. So I went under him and had a look at his controls. I thought maybe there would be an aileron out of rig or something that I could see, but I couldn't see anything, and I couldn't really see why he would have a problem, but he couldn't move the controls. So he nursed the airplane around. We had a procedure. If we had to get out of the airplane, and we used to kind of laugh about it when we read the station standing orders about it, because when are you going to bail out of an airplane when you have control of the airplane to get over the base at 10,000 feet heading west or south it was, so you can bail out over the station. Well, here was the event.
Okay, so the one time it could actually happen.
One time it could happen. So I followed him around carefully while he maneuvered himself. He was ruddering the airplane around and using power to get down, up and down. He got over the station at 10,000 feet, and after some delay, he got out, because every time he took his feet off the rudder, the airplane started to roll, and he wanted to be straight up and down when he went out.
Of course.
So I was wondering what was going on. I only found out after that's what was happening. So he got out, and then I started to follow the airplane, and he broke his back. I say broke his back. He compressed some vertebrae.
He hurt his back for sure, yeah.
And, anyway, that turned out to be rather a rotten story too, because the reason we were told to do that was that there were mountains down there. The Vosges Mountains were south of the base, and they figured, you know, you get out of the airplane at 10,000 feet, it's going to fly into the mountains,
And you're done.
And it's finished. Well, the damn thing was oscillating. It was in an oscillating flight, and I followed it. Finally, there was a layer of cloud. I couldn't follow anymore, and besides, I was running out of fuel by this time, and couldn't follow it any longer. So I saw that it was generally going in the direction that it should, and I turned around and came back, only to find out by the time I landed and got myself up to the ops center that dead airplane had arced itself around a church steeple and ended up in a house.
Oh.
And a mother and her baby were killed.
Oh, no.
So our squadron ended up attending the funeral.
How'd that go?
And for a 20-year-old guy, watching a mother throw dirt on her, or a father throw dirt on his wife's grave. It was pretty, and at the same time thinking, what did they think of us? You know,
of course.
For doing this to me.
Of course.
But I suppose what the saving grace for them is that they were used to war. They were used to fighting. I suspect that they found it much more necessary that they have airplanes there protecting them,
of course.
supposedly protecting them, and they were very civil. I honestly didn't expect them to be civil with us, but it was they were bereaved, and that was all.
Yeah. Well, I probably not the only time that happened either. I think during, especially over there during the Cold War. I remember I've heard stories of it other occasions where it might have happened.
Yeah, that was that might have been even tougher than losing my friend.
Yeah, I can see that because your friend he knew what he was signing up for, so to speak, right?
We knew what it was all about.
Yeah.
And although we all felt that we were
invincible?
Eternally invincible.
Yeah.
It came home. I have to admit, after my buddy went in, I had a bit of trouble for a couple of weeks getting my head around it.
Do you still think of him often to this day?
We never stopped thinking about him. In fact, his brother was in communication with us off and on until he died in South Africa just a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And his wife, David's wife, of course she had become good friends of all of us in the squadron.
Of course, yeah.
My wife never got to meet her because she hadn't been, I was there a year before I got married, and she came back with me. So she never met her, but she did meet David's son. And she did meet his wife as well, because we had an Air Force, our initial training course, 5617, had its 50th anniversary reunion in 2007.
Okay.
And we brought Bev and young David to the reunion.
Oh, that must have been nice.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I'm glad you're able to do that. At least we can maintain contact with them.
Yeah.
So you get off the F-86, or you're being rotated back to Canada.
Yes.
And of course, you don't want to go. You're kicking and screaming.
Yeah.
Grasping all the French wine you can.
But I knew I had to do it.
Yeah.
4 years was a pretty good stint.
Yeah.
And I got, I was quite happy that having gotten the instrument check pilot course, I was already considered to be in a good position to become an instructor in the airplane. I could do instrument rides on all the staff and on the students when their time came due. And so I ended up in training command flying the T-33. It was in Portage la Prairie.
Okay.
That was in '63.
Mm-hmm.
And sometime in there, I think it was about '65, they decided to move the school to Moose Jaw.
Okay.
Because at that time, they were replacing the Harvard with the Tudor. And so they wanted to put both airplanes on the same training basis.
Okay.
So I took I was a flight commander by that time, and I took the T-Birds to Moose Jaw and became the deputy chief flying instructor for the T-Birds.
Okay.
Working with, I was a flight lieutenant at the time. I was working with a squadron leader who was the chief flying instructor for tutors.
Okay.
So, I had about a year of that, and then I was transferred into training command headquarters for a staff job.
Okay, so you did a staff job. And after, so a couple years doing the training command and instructing, were you mostly instructing Canadians? Were there other
Norwegians? Yeah. At that time, we were still doing the NATO program.
Okay.
So it was fun. We had a lot of students. We were busy.
Mm-hmm.
Had a lot of instructors. It was good times.
Absolutely.
And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it very much. I probably didn't get quite as much instruction as I would have liked to do, because it was very shortly after I got into the business that I became the flight commander, so I had to share my flying with administration.
Yeah, so you're more almost like administrative or managerial role, so to
But
speak.
it did give me some freedoms that I enjoyed.
Okay, yes.
I used to like my Friday afternoon four-plane sections.
Okay.
I'd get 3 other instructors, and they could put a student in the back seat with them, and I'd put a student in the back seat with me, but it would be all for us.
Of course. You're calling it training, like a demonstration. That's excellent. So a couple of years in the command, then you went into a staff job. Did you fly again after the staff job?
Initially, because my staff job, they put me in charge of the T-33 training.
Okay.
As the airplane, in fact, I rewrote the manual for it in my first year in staff. Then I got promoted to squadron leader.
Squadron leader, yeah.
And that was about the time that unification had already taken place, as a matter of fact. And I ended up working for 2 Navy people, a Navy captain and a Navy commander. And my job was to schedule all of the ground courses for the unified forces. I couldn't touch any flying training. That was all being done by the Flying Training Division, which I had just been promoted out of.
Oh, no.
So it wasn't a fun job.
No.
I was very young. I was 26, 27. Now I'm a major in a blue uniform that's gradually changing to green.
We'll call you squadron leader, don't worry.
And I just had the feeling that when I went to talk to an Army Lieutenant Colonel or an Army Colonel about the training that was going on in his base, he really didn't want to talk to me about it. I didn't deserve his attention.
But you were commenting on ground training, like the stuff the Army was doing?
Yeah. What I was supposed to be doing in my job was aligning training courses with training capacity around the service.
So I think we need to just take a quick step back, because we have a lot of people who probably aren't familiar with what unification is in the Canadian Armed Forces. And we have a lot of people who actually follow us who are from the UK, the United States. We got people all over the world who follow us. So what was unification, if you don't mind explaining, like a unification for dummies, for those who don't understand?
I wish I understood it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's only been like 50 years and people still kind of trying to figure it out.
I'm not sure what we were trying to do by unifying. I suppose at the top levels there might have been some savings to be made, but from the time I was inducted into the Air Force, it was an Army dental surgeon that was doing my taking care of my teeth.
Yeah.
And yes, I guess there could have been some economies of scale and supply issues.
So, in a nutshell, this is my understanding of it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding of it, we had the three main services in Canada. We had the Royal Canadian Navy, Canadian Army, Royal Canadian Air Force, and they all had their own headquarters, etc. And the whole idea behind unification was to amalgamate everything under one branch, and then you were the Canadian Armed Forces Air Force branch, the naval branch, and the Army branch.
Yeah.
Is that more or less it? And then it was kind of amalgamating everything. They had all the same ranks.
Yeah.
Did the Navy keep their ranks?
I think they did.
Yeah, I think they did too.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I was working for a commander and a
There you go.
captain.
Royal Canadian Navy got to keep their ranks, but you didn't get to keep yours.
No, but I got
interesting.
it back after I'd been resigned for about 30 years because we now have an RCAF again.
There you go. We have an RCAF again. So yeah, the RCAF ceased to be the RCAF, and it was just part of the Canadian Armed Forces.
Yes.
So, and I remember it all went to one uniform too.
Yeah.
So there wasn't like a blue uniform, there wasn't a black and white uniform and a green uniform. It was all, there was tans. I remember I was in the Army in the 90s when I first joined, and you had tans and you had your greens and such like that. So yeah, everyone was supposed to kind of just join into one big team, but it sounds like it was kind of a bit of a mess too. If you had like Air Force guys such yourself sounding Army Lieutenant Colonels.
And the cultures were so different.
They are very different.
That it was very difficult for me to figure out how to deal with the culture I was dealing with. So it just didn't work out very well for me, and it was at that point in time. Mr. Hellier had thrown out 300 pilots about 2 or 3 years earlier, and the training. The training system was almost imploding. We weren't doing NATO anymore. I just at the time I left, I was 28, and I just couldn't look. I couldn't see myself looking forward to any really good flying.
Yeah.
From that time on, and much as I could understand the need for administration and so on and so forth. I had joined the Air Force to fly airplanes, and that's the way I wanted it to be. And I couldn't see it happening anymore, so I got an opportunity to fly with Canadian Pacific Airlines, and I decided I'd take it.
So at the time when you joined Canadian Pacific, there must have been it was probably mostly ex-military pilots at that point.
There were a lot,
Yeah.
largely because of the 300,
Of course.
and they had been dissipated all across North America because many of my old buddies were flying for Trans World.
Oh, really?
Pan Am,
Okay.
United, and so on. Yeah, one of the fellows who had worked in the squadron across the airfield from me. We had two Sabre squadrons and one CF-100 squadron on each of the airfields overseas, and I was on 421, and our other Sabre squadron was 430 squadron. I met one of the old 430 squadron fellows. He was flying for TWA, and he was on a layover in Rome, and I was on a layover in Rome. And we had quite a night together.
Oh, you just ran into randomly in Rome. Well, that's terrible.
Yeah. It was awful for the bottle we had with us, I'll tell you.
That's okay. Nothing wrong with that.
It just emptied.
No, I hate it when it does that. It just empties itself and you have no idea where it went. Yeah. So, pushing forward into your civilian airline career, I'm sure you did. You must have taken a lot of lessons you learned in T-Birds, F-86, etc. I know what were you flying, like a 707 at first, or
DC-8.
DC-8, okay. But I mean, I'm very different aircraft, but must have been quite. There still would be a lot of transference of of technique, etc., or did you was it a completely different world from what you were doing?
You know, the hardest thing I had to do, and I had flown the C-45 and the C-47, but the most difficult thing I had was keeping an airplane on the center line when I was sitting on the.
Because you weren't sitting in the middle of it; you're sitting off to one side.
Yeah. I had. It didn't seem to be that important in the C-45. It was a tiny airplane anyway, and I think that was different. But somehow or other, when I was sitting in the DC-8, the guys used to tease me because I would always leave room for a wingman on the runway.
Old habits die hard. Yeah, that's hilarious. So let's step back. Did you fly the C-47 when you were still in the RCAF?
Yes, but only to the extent that I knew enough about it to be able to ride for my airline transport rating.
Okay, so it was more of a training thing. You weren't flying it on any on operation basis. Okay, well, that's a unique piece of history you flew as well there too.
Yeah. And I had flown it in the instrument check pilot course.
Okay.
And that was my first experience with an ILS.
Oh, and a DC-3, or sorry, C-47.
And you couldn't have asked for a more stable platform.
Of course. Nice and slow too.
That was so sweet.
Yeah.
Watching that needle on my first ILS approach.
I bet. I bet.